Hello, Diana. How are you today?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing great.
And so, we just wanted to talk a little bit about what your job is. What is it that you do?
Okay, so as a coastal biologist, there's a lot of different aspects that I do with my job. So we look at the environment. So we may go out one day and check bacteria levels and other water quality parameters like salinity and temperature, amount of dissolved oxygen. We may go out another day and evaluate a marsh to see if the people that built it correctly and if it's functioning properly. Um, Other biologists may be going out and assessing damage from something like an oil spill. So there's a wide variety.
Okay, well, so you're constantly looking at water quality. Um, I know one of the things you mentioned was bacteria level. What would cause there to be more or less bacteria in the water?
So there's a couple different factors that cause the high levels of bacteria in the water. One of them could be something like a old sewer system. So one example of that is the city of Galveston. All of their sewer lines are really old. And so when you have a lot of heavy rain events, those sewer systems actually overflow into a lot of the neighboring water
Oh, that's
bodies.
gross.
Other things is a lot of animals. So things like cows, if you have a large agriculture area, all of that cow manure has bacteria in it and that flows into the water bodies. Even your smaller septic systems at somebody's house, if it's leaking or not functioning properly, that bacteria can get into our
I may never
waterways.
go in the ocean again. So,
Well, there is the Beach Watch program that's run by the General Land Office. And so they regularly have people go out and test the waters. And so then you can see what levels the bacteria are at to know if it's safe to swim in or if maybe you should just hang out on the beach that day.
okay, I think I probably will do that before I go next time. Um, And so you also talked about oil spills. Does that have what kind of impact does that have? I mean, obviously it's gross looking, and I've seen like seagulls all covered up, but what other impacts does that have?
So it depends on the particular oil because some oils will float and some will sink and some kind of mix in with the water. But a lot of the impacts from the oil spill comes to the habitats and the wildlife that it gets on. So it'll smother like birds. They need those feathers to be able to fly. And if it's covered in oil, they won't function the same way. Also, it'll get on the plants and um, we don't really realize, but plants have little kind of pores in them so that they can get air into them and release air out of them. And so it covers those up and then those plants will die. Or an animal will want to eat that plant and then it's covered in oil and then that animal gets oil in its stomach, which is not good to eat oil.
No, and we know that if you affect one thing, if you affect the plants, the whole food web above that gets impacted. All right, last question. What can we do, right? I don't drive oil tankers for a living. Is there anything that we can do that helps this ocean quality or this water quality?
Yes, there's a number of things that we can do. So, on a larger scale, we can reduce our oil consumption. That'll have less oil moving around in those big tankers. But on a smaller local scale, you can, you know, not pollute. So don't, when you do go to the beach, clean up after yourself. Another program that GLO has is the Adopt a Beach program. And um, we have two large cleanups every year where volunteers go and clean up the beach. And there's, everything from cigarette butts to dirty
Ew.
diapers, plastic trash. So, things like dirty diapers, they're adding to that bacteria problem as well as, just general pollution. So a double
Yeah,
gross.
definitely. One of the things that I was surprised to hear once, and maybe I have this right or not, when it rains, Where does all that water that goes in the storm drain, where does that get cleaned before it goes in the ocean?
It doesn't. So one organization, a foundation, a number of years ago had a program where they actually put a special sticker on those storm drain to let people know that that drains to the bay. And so what that means is that little hole down there on your street is literally got a pipe that eventually the other end of it ends up in either Galveston Bay or the Gulf of Mexico. So anytime you're driving and somebody's pickup truck, there's stuff that flies out, or, there's just trash laying around, or when those septic systems aren't working and that sewage is leaking, it'll get into those storm drains, and all of that goes into the
So
bay.
anything I pour on my street, anything I get rid of by just pouring out in the street, I might as well just go down to Galveston and pour it straight in the ocean.
Correct. So, if we think back a couple years to the tragic event we had with Hurricane Harvey, and lots of people's houses flooded, not only were you having all that rainwater, but any house that had water above their toilet level, you're having sewage go in. Think of all the chemicals that you have in your house, all your cleaning products, all of that got washed into the bay and then eventually out into the Gulf of Mexico.
Thankfully, nature's resilient and can bounce back and handle a lot.
Yes.
Awesome.